is recognizing the gifts and talents of others and celebrating them, building up others, preferring others. Honor is placing value and distinction on a person that recognizes their significance and elevates it. Honor is respect in motion. Honor is huge. It's so important in life. It's a lost or it's a weak component in many of our current surroundings. But when we learn how to display and how to operate in honor, it will open up doors and it will increase opportunities. Honor is not manipulation. It's not using someone else for our personal advantage or gain. Honor is a heartfelt decision. It's a decision that looks for the good and celebrates that in others. It's a conscious decision that I will act in this manner. It's learned behavior. It must be practiced and then repeated, and repeated. In Exodus 20, verse 12, it says, honor your father and mother so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God gives you. And then in Deuteronomy 5, it adds to that and says not only that your days may be long, but that it will go well with you. These two verses are then quoted again in Ephesians chapter 6 when Paul writes and he says, this is the first commandment with a promise attached to it. The command is to honor our father and our mother. The promise is twofold, that we'll have long life and that it will go well with us. Long life and going well or favor. Honoring our parents is important and it has benefits. In Romans 12, verse 10, it says, love one another with brotherly love or brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. I love how that reads, outdo one another in showing honor. What a picture. Be ready, be prepared, and be aware to show honor to others. The word outdo actually means to esteem more highly, to go before, or to be preeminent. Honor is a heart decision. It's not necessarily an automatic response in life. It must be taught, it must be displayed. We're to teach our children it, teach our friends it, teach our family it, teach each other how to honor. In Matthew 15, Jesus said that people honored him with their lips, but their hearts were far from him. And he was quoting Isaiah 29. In Ezekiel 33, it talks how the people said one thing with their voices, but their hearts were not the same. It says their mouth speaks of love, but their hearts are greedy for unjust gain. Honor comes from the heart. It does not come from the head. It comes from the heart. Honor is the seed for access. And I'd like to give you 3 examples in the Bible of people who were in different cultures, but they grew or they prospered where they were because they understood the kingdom key of honor. First, let's look at Joseph. And if you look at him, you'll see every situation he was in, he moved ahead, he moved forward. And one of the main reasons why is he understood honor. And at the last page we see is when he's approaching the Pharaoh. And he says, before he goes to him, he says, I need to shave. And what he needed to do was he needed to present himself in an honorable fashion. What did that do? They gave him access. Daniel and his 3 companions, it says in Daniel 1 that they listened for 3 years. They learned for 3 years before they were asked to speak. And then when you continue on in that passage, you see that he also asked the stewards and those that were serving him that they didn't want to defile themselves with the king's food and the king's beverages, so they asked if they could have a different diet. And I believe they did it in such an honorable fashion that they were given that access, they were given that value and that permission, and they were granted that because of their honor. Esther, she soaked in oil and had other aspects of preparation before she met the king. She was in a different culture, but she learned how to adapt to that culture and how to have honor, and that gave her access. So no matter what culture, no matter what situation you're in, honor speaks that language. Proof of honor is adaptation. You don't stay the same when you give honor and when you operate in honor. In John 3, John says that he must increase, talking of Jesus, and I must decrease. And that whole conversation is built around the honoring of who Jesus was. Honor displayed was an adaptation of his lifestyle. Another aspect of that is a marriage relationship. When we honor in marriage, what we do is we actually change and we adapt, and that maintains access, that maintains favor with each other. You don't stay the same, you actually change and you grow together. So let me ask you something. In your relationship with God and honoring Him, are you changing through your relationship with Him and through honoring the King? We must learn these ways of the kingdom in order to increase and to grow. Honor perceives and honor receives. Dishonor is the opposite. Jesus said in Matthew 13 that a prophet was not without honor except in his hometown and in his own house. And then the next verse, verse 58 of Matthew 13, it says that he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. The people did not honor him, and in doing so, they did not receive what Jesus had. They did not perceive who he was, and therefore they did not receive the blessing and the gift that Jesus was. The flip side of that is found in John 4, where Jesus is at the well and the Samaritan woman is there, and he asks her for a drink of water. And one of the statements in that conversation is, he says, if you knew the gift that was here, you'd ask for living water. They continue the conversation, and he asks her to go get her husband, and she says, I don't have a husband. And he says, you're right. You don't have a husband. You've had 5, and the one you're living with now is not your husband. And she says to him, Sir, I perceive that you're a prophet. And after that conversation, things changed, and the ultimate end of it was he was asked to stay in that community for 2 days, and it says many believed. Why? Because they received what they perceived. They perceived he was a prophet, and they were able to receive it. There is greatness in others, and how you perceive them is how you will receive them. So learn how to honor. It's not what they are, it's how I see them and how I perceive them. So when we honor them, we will actually get what they have. What you honor is what you get. You attract what you honor.